Okay, welcome to Sailstar's courses. We're going to talk about wind, and it's also divided in a few different videos. First of all, wind units. When we talk about the wind, we express it in different units. And for sailing, the most common one is knots. And this is also quite good. It's quite precise. It's had a lot of like variations. It's quite many of them used mainly by like the English speaking territory using knots. And we also measure the speed of the boat in knots, so it's very good. Knots, same knots. In Scandinavia and some other countries we're using the SI system. It's called meter per second. So the wind is meter per second, which is like the correct second. And it's quite easy, because if you have like, okay, we say 10 knots, it's 5 meters per second. Easy. 20 knots, 10 meters per second. It's not really totally transparent. 24 meters per second is only 47 knots. And then there's another scale heavily used, especially like on Europe mainland, but also by others. It's called Beaufort. It's not really, it's not like a linear scale. So and it has not that many steps. 10 Beaufort is storm, and storm is 24 meters per second, 47 knots. 5 Beaufort is 8 to 10 meters per second, which is then equal 16 to 20 knots. So 20 knots, it's 10 meters per second, 5 Beaufort. And how much is much and how little is little? Well, if we're sailing in 2 meters per second, like 4 knots, that's not much. That's almost difficult to sail in because it's so little. Sailing in 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 meters per second, like 10 to 16 knots, is quite pleasant. I like that. Perhaps in the higher scale, perfect, very good to sail in. So, and when we're coming to 10 meters per second, 20 knots and force 5, then it's kind of a lot. When we're going to sail out with a dinghy in 20 knots, it's not little. Then we need to know what we are working with and what we are doing really. Can be a little scary. If we go up to 40 meters per second, 28 knots, that's what we call gale, which is kind of a lot. 40 meters per second, 28 knots, force 6. That's a lot. Then you really have to know what you're doing when you're going out. The thing with the different units is that actually people get a little blinded about them. So if you're talking to a Swedish guy, you're talking in meter per second, and then we say, okay, it was 5 out there, 5 meters per second we say, but we say 5. If you talk to anyone like in the English speaking territory, if they say 5, they mean 5 knots, which is kind of little. So if you meet someone at the dock and you talk about them and ask them how much it was, and they say 5, well, it could be quite different one. 5 meters per second, nice. 5 knots, works fine to sail in, not that much. 5 Beaufort, kind of a lot. It's a big difference, and you have to specify the unit, what you're talking about. Some forecasts actually even use kilometers per hour, which is really strange. Then we have to double it up again, almost. 20 knots is like 37 kilometers per hour. So don't mix it up with different units. Try to keep them together. And there's also a lot of different scales. You can look at the waves, for instance, and try to determine how much it is. If we have the whites on them, we usually say okay, it might be like 14 knots, but that's also depending on if it's a lake or if it's an ocean or if it's long waves or short waves or if it's shallow, so it's not that easy to look at. Of course, there's a lot of different wind measurement methods, so use one of them, and when you're out there, try to look at the waves and try to understand how much wind it is actually. Okay, this is for now, for this chapter and for this video. We will continue with how we can determine where the wind comes from. It'll be the next chapter.